What's up, everybody? Welcome into the F6 Football Podcast. Cam Copeland here, co-hosting with Alex Rogalin. And Alex, my man, what a week! What a week it was of NFL football. That is, we had some historic games. We had some crazy upsets. We learned a lot and nothing at the same time with some of these games. But I'm just looking forward to finally sitting down and for the first time with you and just talking about these games fresh off of this crazy week. How are you doing, Alex?
I'm doing well, Cam. Thank you. Yeah, it was quite the week. It was a week of either there was blowouts, right? Or it was like a couple obviously upsets, like we said. A couple games that were closer than maybe that we thought they were going to be. But, I think the reason there were so many blowouts this week is we're really starting to see the teams that are really going to separate themselves from everybody else, right? There's a few teams every year lately that we know they're good. Some of them are starting slower than others, but we know that by week 3, week 4, guys are really starting to get into the groove of the regular season, starting to get into that grind and separate themselves from the pack. So that's what we saw from some teams. And there's some other teams they're still trying to shake off that maybe lack of preseason play rust that a few teams are still experiencing.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, there's some teams that separated themselves, and then there are also the Dallas Cowboys. So I'm not exactly sure what's going on with that game, but yeah, I mean, again, we'll touch on all these games for week 4 and some of the games that we just saw. But the first thing that we have to talk about that stands out to me is the Dolphins win over the Broncos, because putting up 70 points is it's pretty good. It's pretty good. That doesn't happen.
I've heard that should win you a game.
yeah. And the Broncos, they did score more than 16 points, so good on them.
Man, that was a wild game. And honestly, like I as a Chiefs fan, as you all know, Cam and I, we are open about our biases, whether you like it or not. I am a Chiefs fan, have been my whole life, and I'm not gonna say this, Cam. I loved it, man. I loved it because Sean Payton has talked so much crap this entire offseason. He spent all that time literally openly bashing Hackett and the other guys in the staff last year, saying it was all their fault that the Broncos, it was the worst coaching job he'd ever seen. And it was a complete joke last year, and how he was going to change the culture. I think he's got a rust problem, not a culture problem, because I honestly, man, I relished and enjoyed seeing the Broncos get their ass kicked. Mainly because of Sean Payton.
Yeah, and him saying all that, that's weird, right? Coaches don't do weird. That.
They don't usually do that. No, and that's why Aaron Rodgers got all upset about it. And we even talked about that on one of our early shows, because him and Hackett were close. But anyway, yeah, so it was kind of one of those things where it was like, man, you can't put the cart before the horse. If you're going to talk shit, like, you got to be ready to back it up. And giving up 70 points is not how you back it up. So not going to lie, loved it a little bit.
No, I heard a take earlier that Sean Payton is going to be doing Sean Payton things, and this upcoming offseason just do a complete overhaul of the roster. If that means Russ isn't performing well, I don't recall his exact contract situation in terms of dead money, but he'll either be on the bench or gone if Sean Payton doesn't want him to be playing as his guy. Right, which is crazy to say after he got this massive contract just a year or so ago. But that's he came here to bring his philosophy. He was, the Saints acquired a first-round pick plus just to get rid of his contract. So I think he is going to make some major changes, and whether the poor play is his fault or not, I mean, a lot of it has to be on him because that's his job, right? But he didn't construct this roster, and we'll just see how it is going forward. But I think no matter what, they're just in a pretty bad situation as a franchise.
Yeah, they absolutely they really are, and yeah, I agree with you, Cam. I will be genuinely shocked if Russell Wilson is the starting quarterback for the Broncos next season, week 1. Unless they just can't stomach the amount of money, because it is going to be a huge dead money, to cut him. But I'll still be shocked because especially if this season goes as poorly as it started out, Sean Payton is going to get to that point where, he holds the power. He has the full power. They have a GM, but I mean, really, Sean Payton will control that roster. And when he's had enough of Russell, he'll just say, hey, let's just cut him, eat the money, get a rookie quarterback or something. It's on a cheaper deal, and let's just move forward because they're not going to get it done with Russell.
Yeah, they realistically can't cut him this offseason. It would count almost $50 million against a cap dead money of $85 million this upcoming offseason. Yeah. So the realistically in 2025, they could save nearly $6 million by cutting him, and it would still be about $50 million in dead money. So he's not going to be off the team because it would hurt them significantly more to cut him than just to make him a backup.
Yeah, unless they take do like an NBA salary dump and they just literally give draft picks along with him to someone else to trade him to get him off their books.
No, that wouldn't do anything because trading him it would still count against the cap. 32
because of the money they
million.
Paid already because they already paid a big signing bonus. Okay, yeah,
exactly. So it would be beneficial to them to keep him even if he's just a guy on the 53-man roster. All right, man. What other games do you want to talk about? What stands out most to you from last week?
I mean, I don't think we need to spend too much time on the blowouts. I know I kind of mentioned that in my intro, but I mean, I think what we're seeing though is we're seeing some teams that maybe didn't quite look like themselves for various reasons early in the year that are showing that, guess what? They're really good, right? You have starting with the 49ers. I don't know if you call that a blowout or not, but they won by 20 or 18 points. I'll call it a blowout. 49ers are really good, right? We saw the Bills, not to belabor your Commanders, but I mean, the Bills are really good. They'll be in the contention in the AFC. Obviously the Chiefs, just dismantling the Bears and then pulling all their starters like 5 minutes into the third quarter. Or that would have been much worse as well. So obviously the Chiefs going to be an elite team in the AFC. And I even think last night's game, the Eagles over the Buccaneers, Eagles are still kind of rounding into form, but I'll count that one as a blowout as well. The Eagles are really good. I think the Bucs, even though they were 2-0, are a little bit of a paper tiger. So, I mean, I think that just those 4 games there, they're not entirely surprising blowouts because those teams are really good and should run away from moderate to less than moderate competition.
Yeah, and as you said, your Chiefs completely blew out the Bears early on, as expected. But a takeaway from that game is that the Chiefs or the Bears could not get anything going at all after the half. It's even against a lot of backups, for instance, they just couldn't do anything. And a lot of it is coaching and a lot of it is Fields. And I don't think it would be surprising at all if Fields is not a starting quarterback in the NFL next season. I think it's very possible that, the Bears have 2 first-round picks in this upcoming draft, both looking like they could be top 5 picks at this point in time. And I think it's becoming more and more likely that they end up drafting someone.
Yeah, it's too bad too. I mean, it's one of those things that it's so hard, Cam, to recognize, is it that the player is just not good at the NFL level, right? Or is it the team that he went to? There's certainly some generational players that would be good anywhere. And then there's guys that just got to be in the right situation. And honestly, I loved the athletic and the physical profile for Fields coming out of college. I mean, I just really thought he had, I know, right? I thought he had the tool set, has a big arm, I thought they could help him some with the accuracy. It could be, could really develop into a player maybe similar to a route of, I was thinking like Josh Allen. But man, the Bears are a absolute dumpster fire. And I don't know. I don't know. You're right. I doubt he'll be a starter next year. Maybe if he can get to a second team, he can have a little bit of a career renaissance on a different team that actually knows how to run an offense. Because, now the Chiefs' defense is good, and we don't have to spend too much time on this, but I mean, the Bears are not doing him any favors. Their offense is just a mess. They're not giving him any. I mean, there should be things like easy throws, try to get the ball to DJ Moore, give him some of those easy, get the ball out there. I mean, they should run some screen passes. They should run quick slants. I mean, there's so many different things they should do. And they literally are their offense is trying to make him stand like a statue, like Peyton Manning, and try to discern a multi-layer coverage defense and make decisions. That is not the type of player he is. So, I mean, I feel for him, that really sucks because they're not using his strengths at all. But that just shows you, coaching makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah, I think even a Greg Roman-led offense could be using Justin Fields a lot better than he's being used right now. Not to throw strays or anything. All right, yeah. So I was going through these, the last week games, and we talk about each and every week pretty much who we think is going to win at least most of the games. And 11 of my 16 picks were right, which is doesn't feel that great. But some of these upsets were pretty crazy. Now, we both had the Vikings beating the Chargers and got in our extensive breakdown last week that we got that one wrong. And then the Texans beat
that could have went either way, though. The Chargers tried really hard to Charger that game.
Good use of the word.
Brandon Staley survives one more week, and as you all heard on this podcast last week, I said Brandon Staley is going to be toast by the bye week, so we'll find out.
Yeah, and the Texans beat Jacksonville, and now
that was surprising.
There's some fun takeaways on the Texans side of that game because CJ Stroud's looking like currently by far the best rookie quarterback in this last class. I know that might not be fair to Richardson, who wasn't playing week 3, but CJ Stroud looks legit. Tank Dell is so much fun to watch, all 5'6" of him. And, the Jaguars have, I believe, 3 first-round defensive ends on the roster. I think Chason is still there. But, Trayvon Walker is just not having a good career at all as a number 1 overall pick last year. And that this team isn't generating any pressure. And the Texans had 4 of their starting offensive linemen out of this game, and they still couldn't get to the quarterback. So, Trevor Lawrence he actually played decently. If you watch the game, a lot of people, for some reason, want to pin some of this game on him. But, if they can't get after the Texans, then I'm not very confident with Jacksonville moving forward. They were supposed to have a stranglehold on this division, and it's just not looking like they do anymore. So that's a bit scary to see.
Yeah, I think that one was surprising, and the other upset that was surprising too was the Gardner Minshew led Colts upsetting the Ravens, and I know that was an overtime game, last minute field goal. So anything can happen, but that was another odd game. Just one that the Ravens, I picked them to win the the AFC North, and sometimes I'm like, I feel really good about that pick, and then sometimes I'm like, man, what are you guys doing? So they say they're a lot better team than the Colts, but hey, I mean, the Chiefs lost to the Colts in week 3 last year, and obviously went on to win the Super Bowl. So who knows? Maybe this is a good sign for the Ravens.
Yeah, and the Ravens won the first 2 weeks, but their offense has not looked like it's gelled yet. It looks like it's only up from here, right? It's a completely different style than the last few years, and ideally, they get better each and every week, and ride their talent for the next few weeks. But we'll see. It can go either direction. The last game I want to bring up is the Cowboys versus Cardinals, because what happened there? I mean, the Cowboys were a lot of people's Super Bowl picks, especially after the first 2 weeks. And, it's just anything can happen each and every week of the NFL, right? That's why sports betting is scary sometimes.
Yeah, no, that's true, Cam. That's true. All right. And I guess it's time now for us to look at and recap our upset picks. And so just as a reminder for everybody, if you're just joining us, every week, Cam and I pick an upset of the week, each one of us, and we're keeping track of our records throughout the season. And by upset, we're actually picking who's going to win the game. So not the spread, we're picking who's going to win the game. And of course, they have to be, a team that is obviously they have to be a team that's a dog. to be able to qualify, right? So the teams, just as a recap of our picks this last week for week 3, my pick was once again bad. So I picked Tennessee over Cleveland. Tennessee got destroyed. That brings my record to 1-2. And so and the 2 games that I've missed, both of the winners that I picked got destroyed both games. So hopefully my pick in week 4 will be better, but I am now 1-2. What about your pick, Cam? How'd you do this week?
Well, I'm no longer undefeated. I took the Jets over the Patriots, and I have a buddy who listens to this podcast every week, and he said, I like most of your takes, but I don't understand that one at all. And well, I guess he was right. I explained that my thought process was that the Jets could get their defense together and win 9-6. The Patriots offense is they were able to score against the Jets.
Just enough.
And that's all that was needed. So I am 2-1 so far on the season.
Nice. And that was a really low scoring game, which for those of you that heard our show, we talked about how that was going to be an ugly, low scoring rock fight. And it was. Ended up being 15-10. So not an exciting game. Yes.
Very gross. All right, Alex, do you want to get into our picks this upcoming week?
Let's do it. Let's do that to kick off our preview of week 4. So let's see. I can't remember. Do you want to go first? You want me to go first this week?
Yeah. You went first last week. We'll just take every other week.
Let's keep rotating.
All
yep.
Right?
So hit us up, Cam. What do you got?
Now, a little bit of a spoiler. This is the game that we're going to be breaking down in depth a little bit later into the show. I am going to double down on Miami over Buffalo. Earlier in today, Buffalo was 2.5-point favorites. Currently, they are sitting at 3-point favorites. So it is moving in the opposite direction for Miami. But, I was very big on them over the offseason, took them to win the division. The winner of this game will currently be at the front of the division. Bills are 2-1, Miami's 3-0. But if Bills win, that puts them at 3-1 and over in the head-to-head. So I do think Miami takes this. I already bet on them once in the first 3 weeks. Week 1, I had them over the Chargers in an upset. So I'm doubling down, and we'll see if they can come through for me once again.
I like that. I saw that one. And I like that. I mean, the Buffalo didn't look great in week 1. They're rounding into form in week 2 and week 3. But I mean, I still think that Buffalo's defense, especially, I think their defensive line, and they got a lot of sacks against the Commanders this past week, but I think the last few years they haven't been particularly solid, at least for the eye test at the defensive line. And I think that with what McDaniel is doing down there in Miami, I mean, he's going to have guys running every which way. Tyreek's going to be running all over the place, and obviously Tyreek has had a lot of success against Buffalo in the past, both last year and of course when he was in Kansas City. So I like that pick. I think that one's going to come to pass.
Nice. Yeah. And I can do, we'll get more into it after your pick when we do the full breakdown. So Alex, let's hear it.
So for me, I was thinking about, looking through it. And of course there's some pretty close lines. I didn't pick anything that was like a pick 'em or like a half a point or anything like that. So, but as I looked through, this team started off being pretty poor in week 1, bounced back the last couple weeks, and I think is going to continue to improve. I'm going to take the Seahawks over the Giants.
Nice.
Although the Giants did come back after looking atrocious against the Cardinals in week 2, they did come back and had a good second half and won that game. But then honestly, that's like the only good half of football they've played all year. They got entirely destroyed in week 1. They got half destroyed for half the game in week 2, and they got destroyed in week 3 by the 49ers. I think that I, along with a lot of other people, was maybe a little bit high. I think we got a little bit ahead of ourselves with the Giants. I do like their coaching. I still think Daboll will turn things around, but I think he squeezed every ounce of production out of the Giants last year, and I think that's kind of coming back around this year because they really didn't get better, and so, or at least marginally. And so because of that, I think that I don't know. I think that the Seahawks have gotten better. since last year. I'm adding in some additional, I think, with JSN. I know he's still kind of been up and down a little bit, but I think he'll get going. And so ultimately, I think that's a close game, but I'm going to take the Seahawks over the Giants.
Well, I have 3 games written down that I was considering between. My top 2 are Miami and then the Seahawks over the Giants. I was between those 2, honestly. So I do like your pick a lot. I do think Seattle ends up taking this. I was only a little nervous because I do think that the Giants are a better team than how they've been performing lately. It's also hard to tell how good most average teams are against San Francisco because they can just bully people with talent and coaching. So I think it's very possible this could be a get right game for the Giants. I'm not sure if Saquon's returning yet this week. I think if he does, then he'll be able to run all over Seattle, and that is ultimately why I ended up not choosing Seattle. Seattle over the Giants, just because I am a little worried if the Giants are full go that they'll be able to squeak out a victory. So, I do really like the pick, though. It would have been my second one if not for Miami. All right. So the other option I was considering was the Rams over the Colts, but after the Colts beat Baltimore,
The Ravens,
week,
yeah,
it just did not seem like I was a little less confident there.
Yeah. Hey, the Rams are frisky, man. I remember we talked about we kind of talked about what division we thought when all things were said and done this year would be better between the NFC South and the NFC West. And we had some good back and forth about that in our NFC preview show. And I remember at that time I said I thought the Rams were going to be frisky. I said I thought the Cardinals would be terrible, but the Rams would be frisky. And then I kind of felt like walking that back as preseason went on, because then I was like, no Cooper Kupp. And then there just seemed like there was some drama with Stafford. And I was like, that didn't make you feel great. But once again, you go back to coaching. I don't think there's any dispute that McVay knows how to coach. So I even thought last night a couple bounces go a little different. They had a chance to beat the Bengals in that game Monday night. So I think they're frisky. So I definitely think the Rams and honestly the Cardinals are too. We just talked about them, but beating the Cowboys, and honestly they should have beat the Giants. And they were in a decent game with the Commanders back in week 1. So who knows? A couple different bounces, and the Cardinals could be 3-0.
Yeah, Josh Dobbs. He's always had some pretty high highs. He has the skill set to be a competent quarterback. He just he's never been consistent and has never thus had a full-time gig that he was able to hold. So. He can use his legs. He can make some big time throws. He just, and when it comes through, it's like Ryan Fitzpatrick, right? When he had his games, he'd have his games, but then he'd throw some wild interception.
Then the magic runs out.
Triple coverage. Yep. Unlike those ad season right now where there's too much magic.
Yes.
All right, Alex. You want me to get into the Miami Buffalo breakdown?
Please break it down for us, because I know when you and I were prepping for this podcast, this is an easy pick for a game to break down. I think it's the game of the week in my mind. I know that it's not a primetime game, and we'll find out tomorrow if it's even going to be on in my area in Virginia on the regular cable network. If it's not, that I'll be disappointed, because that is definitely one that I want to watch. I think that's the best. That's got to be the game of the week. So as we think about that, who I know you already mentioned the Dolphins you think have an edge. Tell us, Cam, why do you think the Dolphins have an edge in this game?
All right, so I'm going to go down and just talk about some of these teams' tendencies and then explain the matchup and why I think Miami does have an edge. So as I said before, Buffalo is favored by 3. The game has a very high over-under. It's almost at 53.5 currently. And, the winner is going to have be in the lead for this division. So it is a very important matchup to both teams. Now, both teams have been performing. They had incredible week 3s, right? The Dolphins put up 70 points First time since 1966, where Washington actually had 72 points over the Giants. And the Bills against Washington this last week had 4 interceptions and 9 sacks. And that's the first time that's happened in 28 years. So, again, a very exciting week, especially for these two teams. Now, to get into Miami's offense, right? Mike McDaniel is currently the favorite to win Coach of the Year. He's been doing incredibly well with what he has. Now, because of what happened last week, there's some crazy metrics, right? This team is currently ranked number 1 in both passing and rushing by almost every metric imaginable. They're dominating in yards per carry, yards per pass attempt, and then obviously points per game with over 43. That is unsustainable. So that'll come down. But this team's offense, they run a wide zone scheme with West Coast passing concepts, right? Like Shanahan, who McDaniel has played with in the past. And now a big difference is that McDaniel uses more of his personnel deep than Shanahan. Tua has the 4th highest average depth of target in the NFL so far. So he still does air it out. Now this team is predicated on it. They have speed and they use lots of motion, right? In fact, they have the 6 highest recorded speeds on an NFL field so far. All 6 were Dolphins, over 21.5 miles per hour. That's Hill. Tyreek Hill's fast. And then A-Chain hit it twice, and then Mostert. So now it's easy to look at a team and say that, they use speed, they're faster. But the way McDaniel orchestrates these plays, it's a lot of men beating men to 2 holes or 2 spots. And then a lot of times he's able to succeed on screens and outside run plays more because he doesn't have to block the guys coming out from the edge because he knows Mostert and A-Chain will outrun them and beat them to the spot. So this allows for an extra guy to be downfield and them to end up with lots of very big plays as they did last week. Now, when it comes to rushing, they are zone heavy, 62%, but A-Chain actually has 34% of the team's gap attempts. He has run more gap than zone, which is interesting. Must be just a play style thing or something they saw in camp that they like. They are surprisingly 6th in the NFL currently on 1st and 10 runs. So they are a run first team, but a lot of that is probably to do with game script, right? They average 8.3 yards on 1st and 10, which is absurd and also unsustainable and happened because of this, this blowout. So they use both Mostert and A-Chain in the backfield a lot, especially this last week, right? A-Chain's first real start. They used 21 personnel over 60% of the time, which is wild. I've never seen that before. That's bound to come down. But again, the way McDaniel is calling the plays is pretty crazy. Now on the receiving end, it's a lot of quick timing. Through the first 2 weeks, Jalen Waddle actually led the team in outside snaps via RotoWire, even though he still had more inside snaps himself. So it's a lot of stuff underneath, a lot of quick throws, and then the deep routes are a lot of crosses, sluggos. It's then Tyreek Hill getting down the field and just using his skill to get open. So now on the defensive side of the ball, right? A lot has changed since last year. Last year, defensive coordinator Josh Boyer had mostly cover 1 and cover 3, and he actually had the 2nd lowest cover 4 rate in the NFL, only to Dallas. Now they brought in Vic Fangio, who loves zone, and a core concept of his is 2 high safeties, which contrasts to Boyer the last 2 years when Miami was dead last in 2 high safety shell. So they play lots of zone, seen this last week in Denver. And one of their main philosophies is not to allow big plays over the top. Now on the line, they switch it up a lot. They usually rush 4 and drop 7, but they line up in 3-4 a lot of the time. So they keep sort of a tighter inside linebacker formation than many teams, and they still run that base 3-4 despite only rushing 4 most of the time. Now last year, they had a very high blitz rate, which is something else that's different from this year. Fangio historically has a low blitz count. It's actually never finished higher than 13th. On blitz rate throughout his entire career, which continues this season. Now Jerome Baker's had, I think, 16 pass rush snaps through 3 games, which is a good amount. But besides that, it's pretty much just rush 4, drop 7. So again, this offense has speed. This defense is sort of bend, don't break, cover well, and kind of allow them to run and throw underneath. So how this pairs up with Buffalo? Well, Buffalo's offense is the same as last year. Offensive coordinator Ken Dorsey. It's a lot shorter passes. The only player with an average depth of target of over 9.8 is Gabe Davis. Right. So it's a lot of quick passes. They're leading the league this year in 12 personnel because they drafted Dalton Kincaid and paid Dalton Schultz. Not Dalton Schultz. That's the wrong guy. Dawson Knox. Wrong team. So they're using both of them on the field a lot. And as opposed to Miami's offense, which is mostly zone, they run 72% gap. And when it's not gap, it's a lot of inside zone. They do this a lot with Murray close to the goal line, for instance. So they haven't passed as much this year, but that's probably more due to game script, and I expect a lot of passing this upcoming week. So to wrap it up, the Buffalo defense, right? They have a new defensive coordinator, Eric Washington, who was their defensive line coach since 2020. Probably doesn't matter too much because of who their head coach is. They have a very high cover 2 and cover 4 rates. They did last season and do again this season. They played a bit more cover 2 man than expected against Washington. I watched that game very closely, but it is, it's still a lot of cover 2, cover 4, rush 4, drop 7, just like Miami's defense. But the difference is they have a base 4-3, right? They play a nickel base, which most people know because of the Sean McDermott's Buffalo nickel that people refer to. So, the Buffalo nickel is basically that bigger nickel who can also play the box, helps on run defense as well. And they rarely blitz, less than Miami even this year so far. So these teams are both high-powered offenses with defenses that are very good in coverage and rush 4. So I think in order for Buffalo to win, they have to maintain shell to mask their coverages, not let Tua get his clean first reads, right? His quick timing on the inside, a slant to Hill to go all the way. They can't allow him to get the first read, but I do think they have to keep that coverage, keep dropping 7, and keep that zone as they know how to play. So I think in order for Buffalo to win this week, their front 4 just have to step up and dominate. And I just don't think that's necessarily going to happen. Tua has actually performed really well against a blitz with nearly an 80% adjusted completion percentage when blitzed. So I don't think that's going to necessarily help. He's playing decently under pressure. So if Buffalo's front 4 can step it up, stop them, and get some turnovers, it'll help a lot. Now, Buffalo also needs to hold the ball and keep Miami's offense off the field. They are first in the league in going for it on 4th down. They keep going for it on 4th down this season. So I think they're going to need to continue that, finish the plays or finish the drives with touchdowns. And just ultimately, I do think it's going to end up a high-scoring game. Now, I've said the victor is going to be Miami, but I think it could be very close as the books indicate. So that's it. There's the breakdown, Miami versus Buffalo. Who do you think takes this, Alex?
Yeah, that's thanks for that breakdown, Cam. So, I always like to go back and look at the history of the teams. And so just a little refresher for everyone as well. Miami, man, they play this Buffalo team tough. You go back to last year, they did face in the playoffs, but of course that was Skylar Thompson, I believe, was the quarterback for Miami. Jeez. And because, of course, Tua was hurt. And Miami still kept that game close. So they Buffalo won by a field goal. And then you look at the 2 matchups they had last year. There was a late season matchup in December where that was a really tight game. Buffalo won that by a field goal. And then the first matchup, which was actually down in Miami early on last year, that was the game, if people remember, where Buffalo came down the field and had a chance to try to spike the ball and kick a field goal, and they didn't get the playoff in time. Oh. And so then that was that internet meme of Dorsey smashing everything and having like a rant, up in the booth because he was so mad the team didn't get the playoff. So, I mean, the point being that this is just electric each time these teams play, and it's so close. And and of course it'll be up in Buffalo, which at this point in the year, that's a good time to play, right? Much rather play there now, than 3 months from now. So I do think it'll be a close game. I do think I'm going to have to go with Miami. I know.
Okay.
I mean, I think you really hit on it when you were talking about McDaniel in your preview. And I think it's because one of the biggest difference, like one of the ways you can really tell how great a coach is how open a receiver is. And now I know there is certainly some, talent for the receiver in there as well. But when there's guys that are just consistently getting wide open, a lot of that has to do with the scheme and the way the coach is drawing it up. And I mean, you look at this last week. I mean, now obviously the Broncos are bad. We've all talked about that, but that's not like, it's not like this is Georgia playing a Division III team, right? I mean, these are NFL players. These are guys that are starters in the NFL, and they know how to run coverages. They know how to cover people. And I mean, Tyreek Hill is like 10 yards from anybody, which, I mean, that's obviously some of that could be blown coverage, but a lot of that is scheme too. And so I got to say, in an offensive game, which what it is now, McDermott's a great coach. But McDermott doesn't have anything to do with the offense. He's just, come on, guys, let's go. He's going to give them the rah-rah, right? But he doesn't have as much influence on the game the way it is now than an offensive-minded coach who calls a head coach who calls plays. And so McDaniel, he trusts obviously Vic Fangio to run that defense. And I gotta give the coaching edge to the Dolphins. I would give the speed edge to the Dolphins as you went over, Cam.
Certainly.
I'd give the quarterback edge to the Bills, but it's not by a mile. Maybe it's more at least not right now. So there you go. I like the pick. I will also take the Dolphins.
Yeah, I mean, not right. You take the quarterback for the Bills based on the last couple of years, but according to pretty much every metric this season, Tua's been playing out of his mind. Right. It's not just his receivers doing everything for him.
Yep.
Now Tyreek Hill is doing almost everything for him when targeted. Tyreek Hill has, fun fact, second highest Pro Football Focus grade against zone, and then the second highest also against man. So you just can't beat this guy. And he's come out, and I mean, every receiver says this, but he's like, you can double me, you can triple me, it doesn't matter. I'll just get open, and I believe him.
And it seems like every game, though, and I agree, but it also seems like every game there's at least one like just gimme, to Tua, where Tyreek just runs down the field and no one has him. I mean, that happened again. That was the first touchdown of this last game, but I swear every time it's like at least once a game they just entirely forget about number 10, and he just throws it the peace sign, catches it, and runs a mile. But yeah, that should be a really fun game. Well, Cam, as we start to get into the other games of Week 4. I got to give you my dumpster fire game. So we're going to get this one out of the way first because we're not going to spend any time on it. I'm not even going to have to build it up because it's so bad. Cam, you got to know what game I'm talking about. What is the dumpster fire game this week?
Let me look at the schedule. Okay.
You know what it is.
Is it the Panthers Vikings?
No. That actually sounds entertaining compared to this game. You know what it is. Both of these teams got absolutely annihilated. In fact, I wouldn't even be surprised if the NFL,
Broncos Bears. I missed that.
Yes, if the NFL just tries to drop this game entirely. Right. In fact, this might not be available. If you even live in those areas, the NFL is just gonna send these two teams back to college and say, get rid of them. We don't want them. The Broncos and the Bears.
Okay, I was going through the schedule earlier looking for upset picks, and I was like, I don't know who's going to win this game. And then I was like, you know what? Alex is going to make this his pick. And I totally forgot. I forgot. So
all good. See, the NFL was hiding it from you, Cam. They did not want you to even know that this game exists. So, okay, that's enough. I'll stop with the shenanigans, but that is my dumpster fire game. No need to talk about it. Don't touch it with a 10-foot pole.
I'll be watching. But as I think you're probably catching on to, I enjoy watching two mediocre to subpar teams face each other than I do two powerhouse teams face each other, because it's so much more wild. It's not clean. Things happen. You get some weird plays, and it's fun.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's why we're a good team, Cam. Because I like blitz. I like the Patrick Mahomes, throwing sideways, sidearm, 50 yards downfield to Travis Kelce to dance for Taylor Swift in the end zone. I'm all about that. Let's go. Give me the good stuff. Give me lots of points and a lot of efficient football.
Yeah, I did think there's a chance you'd say Buccaneers Saints. I think that's going to be an interesting matchup. I think it'll be a low scoring affair. But I said I did not have my best week in predictions last week. I've gotten all the Saints games right so far. So, and I think the Saints are going to take that game pretty handily, and for one main reason, and that's because Lattimore is healthy and he never allows Mike Evans to do squat. He's going to be all over Mike Evans. Mike Evans is going to come out of the game at halftime and throw his helmet and throw a tantrum, and it's not going to matter. Saints are going to win this game.
Is Carr playing in that game, or is he hurt? Is he missing the week?
I think he's missing the week. I still take the Saints.
Oh man, you just don't know with Jameis though. I mean, it is against his old team, but Jameis is just as likely to throw a 60-yard dime as he is to throw the ball to like the linebacker of the other team like 5 yards downfield. So you just don't know what you're going to get with Jameis. But Jameis will be motivated to take down his former team for sure.
Oh yeah. All right. Now, besides the Dolphins and Bills, what is the most exciting game for you this week? And you're not allowed to say the Chiefs Jets because that is not true.
Yeah, no, I did. Well, we already know that's true. But other than that game, and obviously I already talked about the Dolphins and Bills. So, I mean, another game that I think will be sneaky good will actually be the Ravens and the Browns. And that's a game I actually think I do want to watch. I think the Browns, their defense has once again, I know you called it a couple weeks ago, Cam, has been showing out. Their defense is elite. And if they stay healthy, they're going to be in pretty much every game. Now, I know we've been hard on Deshaun Watson, as the world has, but he looked a little better this week. He looked a little better than he has in other weeks. And so maybe it's just going to take him a little time to round into form a little bit. But, I think that's going to be a physical game, an AFC North game, both those teams fighting for first place in the AFC North. And the Ravens certainly want to bounce back after a down performance. And so, I mean, I know Lamar even came out and talked about his, how he wanted to improve his performance and how the team needs to improve their performance. So I don't think that one's going to be a really high scoring game. I think it'll be a lower scoring game, but I think it's going to be physical. I think it's going to be fun. And that's a game that I want to watch. I want to watch the Ravens and the Browns.
Yeah. And for all you fantasy managers out there playing redraft who stream defenses, the goal a couple weeks ago was to pick up the Browns, play them against the Steelers. Worked okay, and then hold them against the Titans. That worked out great, and then move on. I'm carrying them out through this week. I think they still put up some good fantasy points against the Ravens. So if you don't have a good other option, want to save some fab, want to save your way for priority, I just ride them out. I think the Browns take this. I do. Now, a game that I want to touch on, just a couple of games here, and that I think will be interesting. The first one, I think this week's Thursday night game will be a lot more fun than last week's Thursday night game. I was not too excited to watch the Giants 49ers last week, but the Lions and Packers are just both fun teams because they're both playing I'd say ahead of expectations. I know a lot of people thought the Lions would be good. At one point, I think they had fourth highest odds to win the NFC. Does that sound right? It was crazy. But the Packers with Jordan Love, he's been playing overall quite well. They won last week against the Saints. And
come back. Yep.
Yeah. If Carr was in that game, the second half, they probably would have been able to get a field goal. But Winston put him in the Saints in a spot to win. But anyway, I think this game could go either way. I do think the Lions overall are a better team, but I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. You going to be watching this on Thursday?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I'll watch it on Thursday. I do think that's going to be a good game. I think the Lions had a good bounce back win this last week after they had not really looked very good in week 2. So, I think that it's going to be a good game. And just a quick side note on, I know we already talked quite a bit about the Bears, but I think that the Packers are like in a lot of ways the opposite of the Bears, because I do think they have solid coaching, a solid system around Love, and they really they're using his strengths and they're putting him in position to make plays.
Yes.
And I think that just shows, like, I would say just purely athletically, Fields is probably better than Jordan Love, at least I think.
Yes.
But like, you look at how drastically different these organizations handle a young, inexperienced quarterback. And so I got to give it to the Packers coaching. I mean, they're really putting Love in a place to be successful. So got to give it to the Packers coaches there.
I just want to shout out real quick before we leave this game, the Lions rookies. Brian Branch is playing out of his mind. A lot of people had him as a top 10, top 15 prospect. He went in the second round to the Lions, and he's putting together he's campaigning for defensive rookie of the year. He's playing that well, even as a safety. He's been crazy. So I think Brian Branch has been playing well. Jahmyr Gibbs, their first round pick, is clearly awesome on the field. He is so much fun to watch. Jack Campbell finally is really improved this run defense. By himself, he's able to be that stack and shed linebacker that Alex Anzalone I never thought was. And then Sam Laporta I think he's the number 2 tight end in fantasy football right now. He's playing really well. So, just shout out to this Lions draft class and everyone, including myself, who gave them lots of hate. Shame on us. We'll learn for next time. Hate after the season is over.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So looking at the rest of the slate, Cam, I mean, there's not a lot of other games that get me really excited. I think they're okay. There's some okay games out there. One of them that I'll call it the coach needs to take a different plane home game. I don't know if that's an official thing, but I'm going to call it that. I'm going to say that's the Raiders-Chargers game. I think both of these coaches are on the hot seat. I know we talk about Brandon Staley. Brandon Staley, he is playing for his life right now. I mean, or else they are going to be saying, sorry, buddy, no room for you on the plane. So, and then on the other side, the Raiders, I mean, Mark Davis, he's certainly, known to pull the plug on a coach that isn't getting it done. And so I don't think that I at some point you just got to say this ain't working. You look at the Raiders with Josh McDaniels last year, and that was a mess last year. I mean, they lose this game, they start 1-3, and they're looking up at a long ways from up to the Chiefs, and not going to be able to really be competitive with them in the division. So, and they're even, I don't know. And Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't he have like 10 interceptions or something? He's got a bunch of picks. He's got a lot. So anyway, that's the coach might not get to go home on the plane with the team game. So, well, I guess one team's at home, but either way, I don't think that'll be a great game, but I think I wouldn't be shocked if one of the coaches in the losing team's fired.
That got me. We need to make that a bit every week.
Yeah.
The coach taking another flight home. Jeez. All right. Jimmy G, is he playing this week? He has 6 picks, 5 touchdowns.
6 picks. Okay. Well, hey, I knew it was a lot. I mean, for 3 games, 2 picks a game. That's going to end up with what, 30, 34 in the season?
Jeez. Yeah, he's in concussion protocol. So okay. I'm not sure if I don't think he's set to play this week. He might still be able to, though. But either way, yeah, Chargers are favored by 5.5 currently. So still, they should win this game. Both teams have bottom, I think, 2 defenses.
Yes.
Might have changed after last week to bottom 5 defenses. But either way, both teams are. The over-under is only 47. I might have to take the over on this one. I'm liking it.
What about you, Cam? For some of those other games that we haven't touched on, any other games that you'll be that you think will be interesting, or any interesting takes on them?
Well, as an honorary Falcons fan, I'll be watching the London game. Everyone, if you have season-long bets, you're a temporary fan of that team. Each and every year. This year, Miami and Atlanta for me. I do think that this could easily be a get-right game for the Jaguars offense, and Trevor Lawrence goes nuclear. It's very possible. It's also possible that the Falcons don't let them ever have the ball, and the Jags can't generate any pressure, and the Falcons have the ball for like 42 minutes. That's also possible, and upset some of the London fans a little bit with the slow game. But I'll be watching that game. I think it could be a lot of fun. I like watching the Falcons. I like Bijan Robinson. I like watching the Jaguars. I have Trevor Lawrence in my big money fantasy league, and I'm gonna continue to start him. Gosh darn it, until until I can't handle the losses anymore.
So I gotta ask you,
fun.
Cam, on that game. Are you gonna be watching the standard broadcast or the Toy Story broadcast? Did you see that? All the commercials?
Yeah, they're
what is that even going to look
everywhere.
like?
I want to tune in on my laptop for a moment. You know, I'll be let's see, what time's the Commanders game? 1:00. So yeah, I'll be watching. Oh, that's at 9:30 in the morning.
Yeah, because it's Sunday.
Eastern.
Yeah,
okay. Yeah. Never mind. Yeah, I will be
watching the Toy Story broadcast, baby.
How's that? We'll next week we'll tell you our thoughts on that broadcast, even if we watch for 2 minutes. But
it's just such an odd thing, you know. I mean, it's like you have these Disney executives that are paid, you know, exorbitant amounts of money, and they must have been sitting there and they're like, how can we get kids? Yeah, how can we get kids in their room to watch football on Sunday morning? You know, well, how about we just pretend it's Toy Story? Oh, they'll love it. Oh, I don't know.
They did this with the slime, right? The last
but I think that like they just had like a border around it and they had like slime in there. This is supposed to be like they're like virtualizing what's actually happening on the game, but they're doing it with like all animated characters. At least that's what I think.
Jesse Bates is
like Woody or Buzz or something. I don't know. Yeah, there you go. That's the biggest controversy is who do you get to pick to be Woody and Buzz, and who's Bo Peep? Someone has to be Bo Peep.
First world problems. All right. Yeah. Any other? Let's see. What games have we not touched on yet? We can touch on those real quick.
We have the Cincinnati Bengals going to see the Titans. Yep. I think the Bengals will win that game. The Titans looked pretty terrible in week 3. And I like Vrabel, and I know I was my upset pick, and they got destroyed by the Browns. But Tennessee just doesn't have a lot of juice. They don't have the players. I don't think they have the horses. So I don't love the performance from the Bengals, but this is about the same time the last 2 years the Bengals start to kind of right the ship a little bit and start to get things back on track. So as long as Burrow continues to get healthier, I expect a better performance out of the Bengals, and I think they're gonna take this one from the Titans.
Well, if Burrow's calf is not healing, then it's just going to be a very long season. You know, The Bengals have been in shotgun 90% of first downs this year, which is, I mean, ridiculous, right? It's league leading. Surprisingly, Commanders are up there too at number 2 with 88%. But Bengals, if they're just operating out of shotgun and Joe Burrow can't step into his throws, can't push off that back leg, you can't rotate his hips. You know, if you watch the game, it was ugly. He was passing it. I think at one point they showed a stat that his average depth of target was 2.9, which is hilarious.
Just he's throwing to running backs.
Sad. That's it. So I think that the Titans are a well-coached team, and I think that it is very possible they can upset the Bengals if the Bengals are unable to switch up their looks on offense. I don't think they do. I think they can, though, more than other people.
And I do think it's pretty close to a like must win for the Bengals, even though they're banged up, because you know they dropped to, let's say they dropped to 1-3, and let's say that the Browns take that game against the Ravens. I mean, now you're already 3 games behind first place, you know, and so that's just I think it's a must win for the Bengals, especially if they want to be in the running for a top AFC seed.
Bengals are only 2.5-point favorites right now. That's
surprising.
Does not instill confidence.
No, it doesn't.
So I guess the bookmakers watched them play last night.
Yes. Do you you got any thoughts on the Steelers at the Texans?
That's where I was just going. I think that could be I know people are excited to watch Stroud right now, but the Steelers get after the quarterback way better than the Jaguars do. and
Mhm.
people are trying to validate uh, their picks of Stroud, saying that the Georgia game, that's legit. He's brought it to the NFL, and he might have. He's been playing okay under pressure. He seemed poised, but I think he's going to have a lot less time to throw this week. Steelers are going to take this one. I think it's pretty. They're going to take it pretty handily,
Mhm.
and they are currently 3-point favorites. I think they cover.
Yeah, I think so too. I think TJ Watt is, he's difficult to block even if you have a good offensive line. And I know that the Texans have even been pretty banged up on their offensive line. So yeah, I think it's definitely Steelers for that one.
All right, Steelers covering, Chargers Raiders over. Need to add a bit to this parlay I have building on this podcast. I think the last. What were you saying?
Yeah, I was going to say the last game I don't think we really touched on. Well, actually, there's two left. I mean, there's Arizona Cardinals against the 49ers.
Niners win.
Yeah.
What, plus 14 or minus 14?
Yeah, that has the biggest. I think it has the biggest line of the week. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's probably going to be a blowout. And then I guess a sneaky game that will be sneaky low scoring in my mind is going to be the Cowboys and the Patriots. This is the last game that we hadn't talked about yet. So the Patriots offense is not good, and the Cowboys defense, other than against the Cardinals, is good. And then I think that the Dallas offense, really run heavy. Dak is still just, I guess he's just Dak, but I think the Patriots actually have a pretty good defense this year. So I think that one's going to be a low scoring game. And I think the Cowboys will win in a bounce back effort, but I think it's going to be close. I think that'll actually be closer than people think.
Yeah, I mean the line's only. I thought I saw 2. No. Oh no, I was way off. Line favors the Cowboys 6.5, 43 over under. You can bet even under 43 right now. Yeah, if this is low scoring game, we might have rounded out the parlay under for the Dallas Patriots. Feel pretty decent about that. I do want to shout out for the Patriots, Christian Gonzalez. He has all right. He is a top 3 zone corner according to PFF metrics right now. He came in. People thought he'd be a great man corner because of his length and his size and his speed and his freaky athleticism, and I'm sure he will be. But being a top 3 zone corner right now via PFF, regardless of what you think of PFF's metrics as a whole, it's pretty impressive for a rookie through the first 3 games. So great pick there. He was picked 1 pick after Emmanuel Forbes in the NFL draft. Still a little bit upset about that one, but I'm getting over it. Forbes is great. He is. He will be. So
yes.
Yeah.
So Cam, I got another question for you. So I know we're not breaking down the Chiefs and the Jets, but my question for you is by the end of the year, is Wilson still the quarterback for the Jets? Zach Wilson?
No.
I don't think so either.
I don't think he is.
Yeah, because I think the Chiefs will take this game pretty handily, which is going to drop them to 1-3. Then after that, they do have the Broncos. Maybe that's a get right game a little bit, and then they play the Eagles, and then it's just downhill the second half of the season. So, what do you think?
Yeah, I was listening earlier today to someone who covers the Jets very, very close with the team, and he was basically saying it's just what Zach Wilson is. It's not fair to the other players, to what you've built this year. It's not fair to the fans. He kind of went off on a rant saying to let him start. He said he made a list of 50 other quarterbacks he thinks who could have won that game.
50, that's week. A lot.
Yeah. Guy was upset. But, Wilson has shown that he is not an NFL caliber quarterback. And I keep seeing, no one could play behind that offensive line. They've had some of the best offensive tackle play that they've had in a while with Becton and Tucker in week 3 anyway. They were it's the first time they've rolled out that combination, and they were protecting him. He's had a pretty very good time to throw. He's just not making the reads, not executing the offense at all, and they can't run the ball because teams sell out against the run and say, all right, Zach Wilson, beat us. And he can't. So I think they have to make a move. I don't think any team right now at this point in the season is going to be trading their backup quarterback, right? People are saying go after Brissett or someone of that caliber. They're not going to do that. No team's going to. So, I mean, the best bet is, there are rumors of Kirk Cousins. I don't see that happening personally. But if it does, I think it puts the Jets right back up in the running for the division if they're to make that move today. Ultimately, I think they finished third or fourth in the division, and they make the move. Whoever they change to, they make it too late for it to really matter, unfortunately.
Yeah, the Cousins one, it would be shocking for that type of trade to happen, but I do see a way that it could work, especially because Cousins is on his last year, right? I don't know about now. I haven't looked into the money, so I don't know about the money side of it, like the cap hit and all that. And I don't know how much cap relief the Jets get for Rodgers if when he goes in IR or any of that. So I'm not really sure about that side of it. But if the Vikings are confident that they want to move on from Kirk Cousins and they know he's not coming back, then it makes sense to get even something for him. Because if otherwise he's walking and you're getting a compensatory pick or something, maybe depending on how much money he signs for. So if you're the Vikings and you're already, let's say they lose this week and they start off 0-4, I mean, at this point, your season's pretty much done already. I mean, there's a few rare exceptions, but for the most part, you're done. So I don't know. In some ways, it's like, well, you might as well maybe move on. And even if you get let's say a second and a third, or something for him. But of course, there's that's not an easy fix for even the Jets, though, because it would take some time for Cousins to get in there and get acclimated. And by that point, they could be 1-4 and in a hole themselves. So
yeah, I think they beat the Panthers this week, but you're definitely right. And as regard to money, Kirk Cousins is on the last year of his deal. He just has a bunch of void years stacked up after this. So if they do want something from him, they have to trade him. It's an $18.5 million against the cap this year. They might need to restructure a bit to be able to handle that. Mm-hmm. But it's the NFL. They're going to make it work if that's what they think is best. So I could, all right. So many fans are like, oh, they're 0-2, they're 0 whatever. They're not looking good. Do you think they tank? And people don't understand that that's not how the NFL works. You will sometimes have one, maybe two teams who sell their best players and are actively tanking. It looked like the Rams were doing that at one point, especially with Jalen Ramsey, and it looked like Arizona was doing that. But in terms of getting fans in the seats, in terms of revenue, jersey sales, for instance, every win that a team gets, regardless of their total, is very heavily correlated with a significant increase in revenue and activity and online presence. So, if a team's going to get 3 wins on a season, is projected to, and they say, all right, let's make our rosters the best it can, so we're perpetually at a 5 to 6 win team, they're probably going to do that for the sake of that year, which is very dumb in the eyes of the fans, but in long term potentially. But it's just how the NFL works. So people saying, oh, they're not playing too well, they're tanking for the first overall pick, and people say that about 16 teams each year, 18 teams each year. That it's not how the NFL works.
Yeah, so. I agree entirely. Even if there's a GM or something that is like, hey, it doesn't really benefit us to win these games late in the season, and it might actually be better if we lose them. Even if the GM is thinking that, the coach and the players are trying
Lovie
to win.
Smith.
Exactly. The coach and the players are trying to win, because even if they don't think they have a future with the team they're playing for, I mean, the football is so driven by your tape and your performance that they want to put on good tape, because they know that that's going to drive to more opportunities, potentially more lucrative opportunities with other teams. So I agree 100%. Even if the GM is okay with the team loses to maybe better position them, or the owner, that's not how the players and that's not how the coaches are doing it. They are trying to, they are grinding tooth and nail to try to win that game for sure.
Yeah. I mean, you think Justin Jefferson's going to try to lose right? You think Christian
Right.
Darrisaw coming back from an injury isn't going to play his best. You have guys like Ivan Pace Jr., who made the team as a free agent, playing their heart out each week to try and retain a spot that's not guaranteed. All the players are going all out each and every week, regardless of who's on the field, and the coaches do the same. So, yeah, that's it. But I do think for the team, trading Kirk Cousins would overall probably be beneficial for them. So
yeah, that makes sense. Well, just like that, everybody, that Cam and I don't mail it in. We do this to win, baby. So we bring our A game every week. So in light of that, please make sure that you guys like and subscribe to our show. As we like to say, pound or smash that subscribe button. Hey, give us that 5-star review as well, because that helps us grow the show, and that we want to reach more people and also bring more people on the show. So with that, Cam, do you want to give us a little sneak peek at what we got coming next week?
Yeah, next week we're gonna be doing what we have done. Get our matchup breakdown, but we're gonna spend a little less time on the recap and preview, and we're gonna start going over some of these college prospects. We're not gonna do a full breakdown. Not gonna be talking too much about Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr. Anyone who knows anything about the draft has been hearing those names for at least the last year or so. So we're going to talk about some risers, some fallers, some under the radar prospects we like. Just spend a little bit of time towards the end of the podcast, just sort of seeing how the college football season's shaping up. It's always fun to start talking draft even as early as the start of October. And that's when I start breaking out the film. So I do a little bit of an overview beforehand, see what guys I want to look at first, and start watching their first few games. So I'm very excited to get into this part of the season.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome, everybody. So come back for that. And then I think also probably the week after that, we're going to talk a little bit about our division picks and maybe even change a few or beg for forgiveness. And by that, I'm talking about myself and the Bears. I will be begging for forgiveness for all of you for making that my NFC North pick. So make sure you come back for that too. It's going to be a lot of fun. So thank you, everybody. It's been an awesome week. Enjoyed a lot of great football, and looking forward to what we got coming in week 4. Make sure that you join us again next week. And other than that, Cam, let's have a great week.
Yeah, man. See you next week. Peace.